All right, guys, as promised, your long-awaited video on clear cutting, and it's going to be fairly short and sweet. So let's take a look. Before we get into this, let's just talk about what logging is about. Logging is harvesting trees and then using, well, if you want to get creepy with it, they're dead corpses to build things. So we use wood for a number of things. We use it for things like furniture and for housing frames, which are fairly obvious, but we also use it for things like toilet paper, as well as regular paper. We use it for tools, rulers, pencils, etc. We use wood for a lot of things we don't tend to think about. And all of that wood has to come from somewhere, usually forests being cut. Now, what is clear cutting? Clear cutting is where you remove all or most of the trees in an area. You cut them all down and then you can let the forest regrow. Hopefully you're replanting trees so that in, 25, 30 years, you might be able to harvest new trees. It's the oldest method of logging because it's very easy to do. It's economically advantageous. It's the cheapest option. You send in a crew of people, they cut down the trees, they haul them all out at once, and you don't necessarily have to, spend money to have people settle and take a long time to clear trees. They can just go in, cut them down, and then go sell them. Um, Usually, like I said, if you have foresters who are looking towards things with an eye to sustainability, they'll replant trees. Unfortunately, they might replant all the same species of trees, and then the trees that grow will all be the same age, which is a problem because some organisms will have niches where they'll consume young trees or eat young saplings or use them for habitats or various resources, and that can disappear if all the trees are the exact same age. So, what are some of the environmental consequences of clear cutting? Well, normally, and for all of these illustrations, you're going to see the forest as is on the left-hand side. So over here, and then you're going to see what happens after clear cutting on the right-hand side. So normally in a forest, pollutants and carbon dioxide are taken in, and then they release clean air and oxygen. However, when you have all the trees cut down in an area, they're not able to absorb carbon dioxide. And if any of the trees are burned, or if any of the brush or waste products from cutting the trees are burned, that's going to add carbon dioxide into the air. As far as the soil goes, when you remove all the trees from an area, there's nothing to hold the soil in place. And so erosion is going to increase. Root systems tend to hold soil, so that way it's not carried away by wind or water. And unfortunately, so when you look at a forest or you look at trees, the roots make the ground kind of bumpy. And when it rains, that's going to slow down runoff. So that way water has a chance to percolate and infiltrate the soil. And that way it stays in the area instead of running off to the nearest body of water. Unfortunately, what you'll see um, is that when you cut down the trees, there's nothing to help hold the water in place. So you have increased erosion, which means you're going to have more dirt ending up in the water, silt, and that can increase the turbidity, which means it's going to decrease the visibility, which means less light is going to penetrate. And so that can decrease your producer population, which of course affects the whole food web. And then like I said, you have increased runoff. And so you're going to have more water running into the local rivers and streams, which can cause increased flooding, especially right after it rains. So if you're here in the Dallas area, whenever there's thunderstorms and stuff, you may get a flash flood watch. And what a lot of that is that the rain, when it's coming down, is not being slowed down by trees or roots, and it's running across concrete. So as it runs to the nearest creek or stream or lake or river, it floods the area. So that way, that can cause risks to people and property, etc. There are wildlife consequences. So, for example, I have a stream in here so that you can see that, well, when we clear out the forest, that means that you're going to have more sunlight coming in. When you have more sunlight coming in, the water is going to absorb some of that. solar energy, and that's going to raise the temperature of streams and rivers, and that could put that temperature of that stream and river past the range of tolerance for aquatic organisms so that they die off. If foresters are replanting species of trees, especially if they're not taking care to replant something like the original native forest, then you can have very big decrease in biodiversity. And then the habitat for wildlife can be disturbed for decades because let's say you cut down all these trees. Well, you cut down all these trees, and that's going to end up removing like mature forest habitats. Even like dead snags, so dead trees that haven't fallen over yet, form important habitats for organisms in the forest. And fallen logs also provide important habitats and nutrients for decomposers and nutrient cycling. And so you have all these consequences to getting rid of the trees. So that is the end of our clear cutting discussion, but as we've talked about in class, we'll eventually get a lecture on more sustainable methods of logging.